Loretta?
So we are recording because sometimes there are some videos or graphics that can be, I guess, a little bit traumatic. So we just, want to give you that content warning, but also we record just in case you miss something or want to review again. So we will upload the recording to the learning management system towards the end of the day, once it's sort of ready, and we'll upload it on the LMS.
Yeah, that's right. So we know life is chaotic and you may have to miss one of the sessions. So you can watch the recording at a later date if you need. And maybe there's something in there that you want to go back and look at and refresh yourself on, maybe during one of the assignments. Say to yourself, well, what did Ken say? And you can go back and have a look at it. And yeah, nothing overly graphic, just a content warning if some of this, the crashes we look at, which are simply for us to understand what went wrong and then what we could do to prevent them in the future. And who are you, Loretta?
It's me. I am training coordinator at Safe System Solutions. So you would have received a lot of emails from me, and those a little bit last minute this morning. Thank you for your patience. But yeah, I assist Ken with organising all the courses, sending out all the meetings and emails about the courses. If for any reason you can't, make a session, that's totally fine. As I mentioned, it's recorded, but just let us know. If you can send us an email if you've got any technical issues or any issues with anything that we've sent you or we've gone through. Please, do email us. Training, just highlighted there, Ken's pointing out, training@safesystemsolutions.com.au. So please contact me. I just wanted to also mention there is a chat function, so feel free to write any questions or comments if you wanted to make any comments throughout the course. There is 5 sessions of this course, so feel free to interact. We do encourage everyone to interact and engage as much as you can. That's how you learn. But also there is a Q&A function. So use the question and answer function on Zoom, and we will endeavour to answer those questions as well. You can use the raise your hand. Now, I know someone has the hand raised. I'm not sure if they wanted to talk or not. That's fine. But if you did actually want to talk, just use the little raise your hand function and we can allow you to talk. Because it's a webinar, we can't see you, we can't hear you. So if you really wanted to say something, you can do that, but otherwise using those chat functions.
Yeah. So we really do encourage you to use the chat function. I'll be asking you lots of questions during this and expecting you to put answers into the chat. You can see there, you've got a little drop down. You can chat to everybody, or you can just chat to hosts and panelists, which is Loretta and myself, if you don't want everybody to see it. But I like the chat to everybody function because with these online things, we don't get that morning tea and lunch together to just have a chat. So sharing things through that can be a good way to do it. You'll have a PDF of the slides if things went wrong, but the easiest is just log out, log back in. It usually fixes it. If not, and it goes bad, you can just watch the recording. And the learning management system, Loretta, what is this?
Yeah, so the learning management system is where we upload all of the content. So as we just mentioned on the previous slide, there is a PDF of the actual slides that for the presentation. So that's in the LMS. You would have received an email, once again, another email from us, but it is with your login details. Now, sometimes there might be some kind of, firewall issue or whatever, and it might go into your spam or your junk folders. So please, if you haven't received that email to log into the LMS, please check your spam folders. If not, send me an email. I'll look into it. I'll, reapply for your password, or you can click on forgot password. But yeah, in this system is where all the course content will be, and we'll run through that a bit later in the session.
Yeah, you need access to the learning management system to pass this course. So make sure you have access, or you start emailing Loretta Get yourself access. Okay, so my name's Ken Beer, for those I don't know, although I do know quite a few of you on here. So good to see the names of old colleagues and friends, and nice to meet others. So I'm the principal engineer at Safe System Solutions. We're a specialist road safety consultancy. And I'll be leading the course. I've been leading the road safety audit course for quite a number of years. Before I founded Safe System Solutions 10 years ago, I worked for the Victorian government, Vic Roads. And in my portfolio of things, I used to manage road safety auditing and a whole lot of other stuff. But through there, was involved heavily in the training, and they asked me to continue it after I left government. And my colleague, Jamie Robertson, will be logging in for one of the modules. He'll present some information. Like me, he is ex-Vic Roads. In fact, we started together back way in the day, and he is now the technical lead at Safe System Solutions. My contact details are there. So any questions you have that aren't related to the management of the course and the admin logistics side of things, which you're going to email Loretta, you can email me about the actual technical content and the like. And there's a little QR code to my LinkedIn profile. I do share a bit of stuff on LinkedIn, and feel free to connect with me there. Now, Loretta, we have this little character, Wally the Wombat, and he's a tool, a little trick we use to try and keep people engaged in us doing this content, because it's very tempting to do your emails and finish off that roundabout design and do that ministerial briefing note that you're running late with. But we ask that you keep an eye out for a little Wally the Wombat warning sign, which will appear a certain number of times in each module. And then you're going to submit the answer. Where do they submit the answer, Loretta?
In the LMS. So that's why you need access to the LMS. There is a quiz for module 1 today. So at the end, you can submit how many Wallies you see throughout the presentation via the LMS on that quiz.
Yeah, that's right. So this does not count as a Wally. So Wally count is 0. But you will see Wally, and you'll have a quiz on some of the content that I'm covering, and one of the questions in there will be how many times did Wally appear. We give a little buffer either side, not much though, just in case you miss one. Okay, we do have a competency requirement. So there's competency benchmark. Because this course is recognised in quite a number of jurisdictions, they have some requirements for us to ensure competency and some basic, success requirements from participants. So we ask that you attend 4 out of the 5 live webinars. We'd love you to be at all 5. We know though things can happen. And have a look at that one recording if you miss one. Now, if for some reason life is super chaotic and you have to miss a second one, just get in contact with Loretta and let her know that, and she'll give you some info there. You need to complete all the tasks we give you, and the competency benchmark is a 80% pass mark. So that sounds a bit scary, but I can assure you that everything that you'll be tested on, we're going to cover in the content, and you have 3 attempts at everything. So 3 attempts at every quiz and every assignment if you need it. And we offer one-on-one coaching. So if you were to do an assignment or a quiz and do really badly and think, I'm struggling here, we'd really want you to get in contact with us, and we'd set up a one-on-one Teams or Zoom with you, and one of our senior road safety auditors would be able to sit with you and do some one-on-one coaching on the particular areas you might be struggling with. Did we miss anything, Loretta?
No, that was perfect. But yeah, I guess again, just encouraging, we want you to pass, and it's obviously an important accreditation. So yeah, reach out if you do need any further assistance. But when they are graded, when your assignments are graded, you do get feedback from the markers as well. So that will really help you. But yeah, always reach out for any questions. Thanks, Ken.
Yes, as I always say, if you fail this course, I have failed horribly. And so I'll be trying to ensure that we bring everybody to that minimum competency level, and we'll just make you prove that with a quiz or the like, but I'm sure you'll do okay. Now, I give out some prizes, and Loretta's there in the prize pit. It's not a stuffed Superman toy you're going to win. You will win some prizes if you participate. So when I ask questions of you, if you type it into the chat, the answers, or have a guess at it, I might give prizes out. I'll have different little activities along the way. And so you're a chance to win a prize. We even do a little bit of just trivia before the session officially starts, for modules 2 to 5, just to get you in a little bit early. So there's a bit of general trivia. And how do we get these prizes to them, Loretta?
Well, because we've got some international guests, I might have to find a drone to go over the seas. But yeah, usually we do post them out. So another thing I guess I wanted to mention, if your name, make sure that we can understand your name so we know who you are. If you can rename, if I think there's someone there with a few numbers, otherwise I won't know who to give prizes to. So yeah, but we do use post to send out prizes.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, Loretta will be in the background monitoring the chat, and your username that comes up, that's who we're looking for to allocate prizes out as we go. Hopefully that covers everything off. Now, of course, pop into the chat if you've got any questions, and Loretta will answer those as we go. But I'm going to get stuck into a bit of content. And so welcome to the Road Safety Audit course. And so this module in particular, we're going to just cover off some general stuff about road safety auditing, what it is, how it fits in the context of a road project. We're going to differentiate between a road safety audit and a black spot investigation. I'll explain that all later. We're going to look into risk ratings, and we're going to talk about the safe system. Now, we're going to delve into kinetic energy thresholds for different crash types. That sounds very exciting, and it kind of is. But we're thinking about, how bad crashes are going to be, and we do that with a bit of kinetic energy analysis. And we're going to categorize road safety audit findings. But overall, this course is based on the Austroads Guide to Road Safety Part 6, which is Road Safety Audit. So that's that document there. Some of you might have seen it. So I was technical advisor to Austroads on the development of the 2022 version of it, which we currently are operating under. There's some pictures of some of the older ones you might have seen. They're all superseded now. So the content of this course follows that. It's fairly consistent internationally, the process of road safety auditing. There are some tiny little nuances that are different in different countries, but the general principles and process of road safety auditing is consistent across the world. I've just come back from Canada, where I was running this training course for the Canadians, and we're very much following the same process across North America, Europe, Middle East, Australia, and Asia. So it's fairly consistent. But overall, for the course, right, the course as a whole, we are looking at the process of road safety auditing. Okay, there's no possible way in our 5 modules we can talk about all of the things out there on the roads and the streets that you might identify that you've got a concern with as a road safety auditor. We just simply don't have enough time. And in fact, that's a lifelong, career-long exercise of continuing to learn and identify things and read things and see things and work with others. So we're going to focus in on the process of road safety auditing and ensure that you have basic skills in how to undertake this process of road safety auditing. We're going to ensure that you look at things through a safe system lens. I'll explain what that means shortly. But then we're going to present examples of common issues in road safety auditing. And this is through my 20 plus years of road safety auditing and colleagues and things that we see coming up over and over again. Now, admittedly, we've managed to do some good work in changing standards and guidelines and the like to rectify these. If you're seeing the same thing coming up over and over and over and over again, you'd want to try to change industry on that. But there are common things, common themes that come up. So I'll use lots of those examples. We want to ensure that you're thinking about all road users, cyclists, motorcyclists, heavy vehicles, pedestrians, cars, and in that pedestrian category, thinking about all of those, micro-mobility modes, e-scooters and hoverboards and all sorts of exciting things that are coming along. We're going to get you to, think about auditing and hopefully encourage auditing as a really good road safety tool and answer any questions you got. So there's a Wally. Your Wally counts 1. That's all the help you get from me for this course on Wallies. So keep an eye out for Wally. And most of my slides don't have this many words. I hate a slide with this many words, so I apologize. And I apologize a little bit about the complexity of this diagram, but it's a snip straight out of the Austroad's Guide to Road Safety Part 6, which is trying to, I suppose, show some of the different stages of a road project from network corridor planning all the way up to operating and maintaining an existing network. So we go development of projects, scoping, into your design work, into the delivery of it, building of it, some post project checks and the like, and we can inject safety, road safety in all through these in many different ways. And you can see there the green sort of safety vision stuff, safe system principles, safety and design, movement in place. We've got what we call proactive techniques, reactive techniques, and what was termed predictive techniques. So road safety audit sits in our proactive techniques. And that means that we don't have to have a crash history to do road safety audits. If you've got a crash history and you're really doing in-depth analysis of the crashes that have happened and why they've happened and the like, you're down here in reactive techniques and you're doing sort of either black spot investigations or treatment of crash locations, these sort of things. Now, I mean, these are sort of complementary to this. And in fact, we learned a lot of the things as an industry in road safety auditing from crash analysis, but those are two different beasts in their own right. I'll explain that a little bit more, but that's a sort of common misconception of road safety auditing, that we're just looking at the crashes that have happened and trying to change the road environment based on the crashes. Another common misunderstanding of road safety audits is to think that it is a check against the standards and guidelines. And that's not the case. Okay, we don't. So meeting all of the standards and guidelines of your jurisdiction does not guarantee safety. And there's many reasons for that. Okay, sometimes the standards and guidelines are very old and they haven't, kept up to date with current vehicle fleets, the way the roads are being used. Second one is that standards and guidelines sometimes and very often have traded off safety. They have to. They've got all sorts of things going on in this sort of development of a standard or a guideline. They're thinking about cost and they're thinking about other movement of vehicles, so the operation of your network and things. And sometimes safety hasn't got the prominence we wanted to have. Then we've got the application of the standards in particular contexts. Sometimes a standard has never been thought about in a particular context, but it's being applied in that context. And another one is that sometimes standards combined create unsafe scenarios. As on their own, they're fine, but then you pull them together and it creates an unsafe situation. So a road safety audit is not a check against the standards, right? That can help sometimes in terms of understanding what the standard is and whether it's been met or not. But as a road safety auditor, I've had plenty of times where I look at a design or an existing piece of the road network and I say, okay, that doesn't meet standards. But I don't think that that's a safety issue, so I'm not going to report it. Vice versa, I've said, that absolutely meets standards, and I know that, but I'm still concerned that somebody will be killed or seriously injured, and so I'm going to report on that. Okay? So it can be either. But sometimes you go, that doesn't meet standards, and I'm concerned with it, and you report on that. So all those things can happen, but don't be confused into thinking that this is like a check against standards. And the term audit can confuse people because when you get financially audited or something like that, well, they're just checking that you followed the legal documented code for that financial system or the like. So the term audit can give that connotation, but road safety audits are more a collaborative effort to try to reduce death and serious injury for projects that are about to be built or for existing roads, and it doesn't matter whether it meets standards or guidelines. Happy to take questions as we go, but I might give an example of this. Well, this one will certainly be, I suppose, skewed to, I'm going to ask a question here. I'll give a prize if you can tell me what road that is. That's a very tricky one. It's going to be very much favored to one jurisdiction. So type it into the chat. There you go. Mick is our first prize winner. Well done, Mick. It is Eastlink in Victoria, in Australia. So apologies for anybody who's not in that jurisdiction. You wouldn't have got that. Very well played. So what we've got here is a tragic incident where a truck driver has lost his life when his large vehicle left Eastlink, not that long after it was opened, which is a $1 billion plus motorway, which is fairly new, breached the barrier system, collided with the overhead gantry. Now, that barrier system met standards. But somebody's lost their life. So that's interesting, isn't it? So that barrier system, if it was a test level 4 barrier system, now I've gone very technical very early. If it was a test level 4 barrier system, I'll give a prize for the person who can tell me a vehicle, like a test level 4 barrier has been tested in a crash lab or a crash test facility for a vehicle of a certain weight traveling at 100 kilometers an hour at a 25-degree angle hit. Anybody want to have a guess at what weight the vehicle is for a test level 4 test? I'll give it to the closest. And by the way, you are not marked on anything that happens during the course. Only after the course is where you're marked. So you can have a guess here, and there's no repercussions. You can just have a guess. We've got a few. And the answer is 10 tons. And I saw it pop in there, and now it's disappeared off my screen. So Loretta.
I got it. Yeah, it's one of our friends from Saudi Arabia. So thank you.
Fantastic. Yes, a 10-ton vehicle. So that's under the MASH test protocol. Some of you who might have heard of MASH is 10 tons. And I see a few other good guesses in there. But okay, 10 tons. So this vehicle, especially, well, if it's loaded, is going to be more than 10 tons. So we know that that barrier is not designed to contain a vehicle that large and that heavy. Okay? It meets standards but somebody's made a choice along the line to use that particular barrier system. They could have gone to test level higher if they wanted, where you move into concrete barrier systems usually and higher containment systems. Or they could have even gone lower. They could have gone out to a test level 3, which is the 2-ton pickup truck, which I think some of you have had a guess at. So I'll give a prize also, Loretta, to the first person who said 2 tons, because that's a pretty good guess as well in terms of it's a particular crash test weight. Now, sorry, I'm getting all excited here about barriers. If you're sitting there going, oh my God, I do not know this much about barriers, perhaps I can't be a road safety auditor, I'll say, don't worry, okay? You're going to find out a whole lot of stuff that will calm you down from that thinking. First of all, we do road safety audits in teams. And when you are getting together as part of a team, right, if you know you've got barriers in the job, you're going to pull somebody into your team who has like high-level barrier expertise. And also, we don't push you out there straight away after the end of this course and say, right, now go and audit the design for a new billion-dollar motorway. No, you start off as a road safety auditor, and you're there, and you'll have senior road safety auditors working with you, and they'll mentor you, and you'll get to know more and more of this. I'm just using this as a particular example of where a standard was absolutely met, but we still had death from somebody just leaving the road, which lots and lots of people do. Now, in this particular example, I also go, wow, this could have been really, really bad. I mean, it's tragic as it is. This could have, though, taken the gantry down over the running lane, and we could have seen an even more catastrophic event. Now, luckily, in Victoria now, this doesn't meet standards. And you are required to have a higher containment barrier system on the approach to anything that's going to sit over the carriageway. But it's a good example there of where, just meeting standards and guidelines may not be enough. So that is the test vehicle under a MASH test level 4 test, 10-ton truck, and the barrier needs to contain it, and there's a whole lot of other parameters in the MASH testing, the manual processing hardware. But that's for another course, a barriers course, in-depth stuff. As auditors, we want to know and think about this, and I'll integrate some of it in. But don't worry, you're not expected to be an absolute barrier expert in order to be a road safety auditor at this stage. Let me give another example, and I'm going to stick in Victoria here. But this is a new bit of road that's being developed, like a duplicated road. So they're duplicating it. And there's a big new subdivision in here, huge, huge subdivision, like massive lot of apartments, shopping center area. We've got an existing intersection up here, and I'm going to zoom in on this little bit that I've highlighted, okay? So this is a new road. It does not exist yet. Well, it actually does now, but back then when it was a plan, it didn't exist. And you can see here, I've drawn a little car. So this car, imagine it's traveling along at 65 kilometers an hour. It's a 60 zone, but they're traveling a little faster, as many people do. We need to be thinking and factoring that in. So they're in their lane, they're continuing on straight, happily continuing on straight, and whoa, I'm in a right turn lane. Now, this is termed a trap lane. Now, this is a common thing we'll pick up in road safety audits. I really would like to find out who coined the term trap lane, because I'll give them a prize. That's an awesome name for this, because it's exactly what happens. You're driving along and all of a sudden you're trapped. You don't want to turn, but your lane turned into a turn lane. Now we absolutely know from mountains of data and evidence that we're going to see an increase in rear end and side swipe crashes in this location, because people are going to try and get out of that lane. They don't want to be there, and they're going to make that last minute move, and there'll be vehicles banking up. Okay. Now, this is where the Austroads guidance just doesn't want to make a call to say you cannot do a trap lane. They say, oh, try to avoid trap lanes, and there's, where they never make that absolute call. So this doesn't actually contradict any standard or guideline. It's discouraged, okay? And as auditors, we can point this out, okay? We can say, there's going to be a trap lane created. This is likely to cause sideswipe and rear end crashes, and then we can give them some help in ways to lessen that risk. Now, okay, as a road safety auditor, we're really focused on the safety aspect of this. Now, many of you have probably been involved in somewhat similar projects, and you know how hard it is to do something like this and how many competing demands you have. You've got budget constraints, you've got the traffic model that's telling you have to do one thing, you've got all these services and then property accesses, and there could be cultural heritage sites, and there'll be pressure from the developers and the residents. And it's a really, really hard thing to build public infrastructure. And it's becoming harder and harder, right? Our role as road safety auditors is really to be that voice of safety. We can be sympathetic to those other challenges and say, yeah, we understand that, right? But just because it's hard to fix doesn't mean it's not an issue that we flag. And you'll get that as a road safety auditor, where they'll say, we can't do anything about that. Take it out of your report. You say, unfortunately, we can't take it out of the report, but let's maybe try and work on some other ways we could lessen this risk. I mean, it is an issue. It's hard. There's no way this designer didn't know they were putting a trap lane in. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's a possibility, but no. The designers are good, usually. They know this is a trap lane, and they're doing it because they've got their hands tied in terms of the project scope and the challenges that are there, right? And we're putting this in. Occasionally, like, you do find things in road safety audit that the designer missed, but this one, the size of this project and all of that, I'm pretty sure they knew, but they just went, well, we got no other option. So then you can provide recommendations, everything from removing the trap lane, which is what we want to do, but potentially providing them with other things that may lessen the risk if they absolutely have to keep it, such as some really good advanced warning, alterations in the pavement markings, could be gantry signage, all sorts of ways to try to lessen this risk if they can't remove it. Pop your questions in the chat as I'm going. Anything you think of or any comments you've got, happy to take those as we tick along. But I'm going to get you to do a little bit of something now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this little bit of dash cam footage, and there's going to be a crash. Now, remember, road safety auditing is not crash investigation, but there's stuff we can learn from crashes that we're going to try to make sure people don't build them in the future, or if there are intersections like this, that maybe we can lessen the risk. But what I want you to do is watch this a few times, and then I want you to type into the chat what factors or things in the built road environment here, in the infrastructure, may have contributed to this crash happening. Okay? So what in the built environment may have contributed to this crash happening? Don't talk about the driver's behavior, all right? Talk about the infrastructure and how everything's been designed and built, okay? So I'm going to play this video. Hopefully it plays. No, it's not going to play. We'll try it that way. Okay. I'm going to come back to this, and we'll do this little exercise after the break because something's gone a little astray there. Unless, Loretta, you have the slides up. You probably don't. Don't worry about it. We will come back to this. But the vehicle overshoots this intersection and then collides with another vehicle, and as you can see there, and then it strikes the light pole. Now, the light pole breaks away. I'm going to focus now on the result of the crash, not why it may have happened. We'll come back and we'll delve into why it may have happened when I get the video up and running. But the crash has happened and the vehicle's hit the light pole, and the light pole's broken away. And as you can see, the top fell down, but the light pole broke away on impact. Now, what's going on there? Is that a defective? Is that a defective light pole that shouldn't have broken away? Does anybody know the term we might use for a yes? Oh, good. Lots of you do. You're onto it. Okay, so Mick already got a prize for roadside safety discussions. So we're going to go to Derek there as prize winner for saying frangible. And frangible is the overarching term we mean for breakaway on impact. So anything that we decide will break away on impact, we deem frangible. Frangible, is the overarching term. And then there are specific things within that categorization. And Jackson's jumped in there nicely with a slip base, and that's one of them. So Jackson can have a prize too. Loretta, I'm giving out all the prizes today. So a slip base pole is a particular type of frangible pole. And this is a slip base pole arrangement here. Okay, so a slip base pole has a shearing plane, and when a vehicle strikes it at the base, it shears off. But when you have your torque, from wind and other loads, that goes to some bolts on the outside that hold that. So it's a pretty cool bit of road safety engineering design that means when struck at the base, it's going to break off, but it's not going to break just sitting there getting a wind load. Now, as road safety, so you can see one here, and you can see one of our senior road safety auditors having a look at it, which I'll come back to. But as a road safety auditor, you might be given a design like this, which is planning to put in some new lighting at this intersection. And what your role would be is to have a look at the lighting and whether it's going to cause any issues, any see-through effects, any changes to or get in people's eyes, like a driver will be blinded by things. You might be thinking about that, but you'd also be thinking about, well, what type of poles are they using, and are they appropriate? And that will be listed in the design. So you're imagining the future and saying, well, what are they going to build? And you can see there's a slip base pole that was struck, and it wasn't, I think it was struck onto the carriageway, and then it was pulled around onto the island there while waiting to be fixed. But let's imagine if we had, the design of this intersection here. And you saw in the design, they were planning to make that one a slip base pole. Okay. They said, yep, we're going to make that a slip base pole. What do you think, and put it into the chat, maybe some of the issues if that was a slip base pole? Give it a second here. Okay, here we go. Fall on the tram tracks, power lines, VRUs on footpath, other vehicles, tram lines, pole. Okay, this is good. We're beautifully now thinking about it falling onto different places, and that's important. Our big concerns usually on falling light poles and the like is predominantly around pedestrian areas and overhead power lines and tram lines and the like. Falling onto other vehicles, we do think about. They're usually not heavy enough to bash through, but it's not something we ideally like, that's for sure. So that's another one to have a think about. So Loretta, I'll let you work out who they're. So power lines or pedestrians, and we'll give out prizes for both of those. Now, this is interesting then. So we know that, okay, in a high pedestrian area, we probably don't want slip-based pole. We don't want things falling onto pedestrians or these overhead power lines. So we then might look at rigid, but rigid can be dangerous for the occupants of the vehicle because with it really hard, you hit them hard and there's lots of energy transferred into the occupants of the vehicle. So a general rule of thumb is that low speed environments, rigid poles are okay. And usually, especially if there's pedestrian areas, high speed environments, we want to make sure that they're slip based. There is another intermediate pole, and Mick is beautifully already onto it. That's another prize for Mick, I think. Impact absorbing, okay? It's one that you can use in that middle situation you're a little bit sort of stuck on. And I'll show you what an impact absorbing looks like. So here's an impact absorbing. It's another category of frangible pole. It doesn't shear away, and it kind of contains in an envelope the vehicle and the pole, right? So in some of those medium environments, you can think about that if you've got that extra concern. But our role as a road safety auditor is to really think, okay, if we've got the design, where are these going to fall? Should they be frangible poles? Should they be slip-based? Should they be frangible? Should they be impact-absorbing poles? And where will they fall? And if you've got an existing road, so you're either maybe doing a post-construction road safety audit, so you're going out to look at something that's just been built or an existing bit of road, you might check the height. Because if the shear plane is too high, they've installed it too high, vehicles are going to snag on it. Okay, they're not going to shear the thing. If it's too low, well, that's not the worst thing, but it's just not going to shear exactly as it was designed. So you can see there, Max is just checking the height of the slip based on a post-opening road safety audit of a roundabout. Now, in the PDFs of the slides for this course, which you get from the learning management system if you want to, you'll see some of these little click here for a safe system snippet. Now, that's just a little bit more information on this if you want to delve into it and have a look at it. We've usually got some videos of vehicles crashing into slip-based poles or whatever topic we're talking about. So you can have a look at that. Now, Loretta has kindly passed on to me the video. So I'm going to drag this in here. So hopefully, Loretta, now you're seeing the video?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to play this, and we're going back to you thinking about characteristics of the road environment that may have contributed to this crash happening. And I'll play it a few times. So we're seeing the back of the dash cam here, and then we'll jump to the forward dash cam in a second. So keep it to the characteristics of the road environment. Okay, I'm going to play it again, and I'm seeing some ideas come in. So what are the characteristics of the road environment? The design, the layout of this intersection, the signs, the lines, any other things you can think about, pop them in, and we'll have a chat about those. So we've talked about the frangibility of the pole already. Okay, so I'm seeing lots of good stuff come in here. This is excellent. let me just start to have a look at what we're saying here. Okay. So we've got some people talking about, is there appropriate advanced warning signage that there is an intersection coming up? And that's, that's good. That we want to make sure people are very alert to what they're approaching and what they have to do. There seems to be a bit of confusion as to what intersection form this is. Is this a roundabout? Is it not? It's not a roundabout, actually. But if you're confused by that, odds on some drivers will be as well. Always hard to do any of this from a video like this. You want to be out on the site and really feel it yourself. And that's why part of road safety auditing is that we always go to the site. But what we've got there now, people are talking about the location of give way signs. Where is it located? Is it hidden by other signs? That's another good one. Donnie has popped in there see-through effect. I'm going to give Donnie a prize there. The see-through effect is an interesting one, and that's the idea that this vehicle may have thought the road continued on unabated, that they didn't have to give way. Now, okay, it might look very obvious that there is, there's a giveaway sign, there's a little hazard board there. However, it only takes 1 in 50,000, 1 in 100,000 drivers to maybe be really tired, worked a double shift or something, and they're driving along, or maybe maybe they're intoxicated in one way or another. Now, we don't condone that, but that's the reality of what's driving around a lot of our network. And are there road characteristics here that are confusing them to maybe think that the road continues on? And the geometry of a road is so influential in terms of people's subconscious understanding of what's coming up that it trumps signs and lines in a lot of cases, in the sense that we will see people overshoot this intersection because it lines up with the other leg. And there's this other little thing that is playing on people's subconscious, and they'll never be able to articulate it to you, but a run of power poles and a run of street lights or a run of trees that continues on through an intersection where you've got a yield really increases the overshoot possibility. So at an intersection like this, we talk about 2 different things. We talk about overshoot crashes and restart crashes. Overshoot crashes is where the driver has not identified that they have the obligation to yield at this point, or they've identified that just too late to do anything about it, and they've skidded into the intersection line. Restart is where they're absolutely fully aware that they have to give way at this point, and they've made a bad call. Either they've come to a stop and they've made a bad judgment as they've tried to enter into traffic, or they've been approaching, they've looked both ways and they've gone for it and made that bad call. I would say this particular one is an overshoot crash. And the see-through effect is potentially contributing to that. The overarching term we would use here is visual deceit. And you'll see that appear in a lot of road safety auditors, where the auditor will say, the geometric alignment of this intersection may contribute to visual deceit for the driver, and the driver may experience a see-through effect or an avenue or a tunnel effect at this. So that's a really big factor, and I'm glad somebody brought that up. But it doesn't mean that everything else that people are bringing up is not relevant to a road safety audit. Absolutely. We'd be looking at what's the advance warning. Have we told people sufficiently that the road doesn't continue through? I'm going to give Mark a prize as well, because Mark's said see-through effect in just different terminology. Sight lines. So another good one. Have we got appropriate sight distance? Can we see with time to make a call as to whether to go or not? We've got people talking about sign clutter and and we've got people talking about the width of the intersection, the speed that people are approaching. These are all wonderful things to think about and look at as a road safety auditor. Yes, and now we're seeing it come up a few times. Mick's beautifully put it in there about the illusion of the road continuing through, and that is visual deceit. So well articulated there. Now, some people have jumped a little bit to some solutions. I didn't ask for solutions at this stage. And that's one thing I find it happens quite a lot, is that I'm talking to road safety auditors or potential road safety auditors. They're also engineers, technical officers, designers, they're technical people. And they manage to identify an issue and solve it all in one, like that. So they jump to saying, for this, the intersection should be a roundabout. And I'm like, whoa, what is the issue? And our job as road safety auditors is to find issues, right? It's for the project manager and the designer to work out how to solve it. Now, we might give them a little bit of help there, a few ideas, but this is not our project. They've got all sorts of challenges. We just help them identify issues, give them some ideas on how it might be, the risk might be lessened. Okay, so that was just one example there to get us thinking about, just missed that. What are some of the contributing factors in the road environment that may influence the chance of a crash? And then we talked about the hitting of poles. Well, that's how bad the crash will be as an outcome. Is this going to be a minor issue, or is it going to be a big issue? So thank you. And this is a great group, Loretta, in the sense that lots of input and lots of good ideas. And already I can see lots of people who are already thinking like road safety auditors, because all of the things I was seeing in there are things you would want to be considering as an auditor if you saw an intersection that has that potential see-through effect. Wonderful. Now you will get a stretch break in 10 or so minutes. I just want to get a little bit further on. So road safety audits are proactive. I mentioned this before. Black spot investigation or crash investigation is what we would term as the reactive idea. If you've got an area with lots of crashes, you'd probably do a black spot investigation. Should you look at the crash history as part of a road safety audit? It's up to you. Austrade says it could be useful, it may not, but don't let crash history of a site drive a road safety audit. It may give you some factors, some things to think about, understanding of some of the road users involved, but if you're driving everything based on crash history, it's actually not a road safety audit. Now, road safety audits are like super good value in terms of if you took a benefit cost ratio. So that the way that's worked out is basically how many lives can we save, and can put a dollar figure to that, and how much does it cost to do the audit and make any changes that are recommended. So for every dollar invested, you get $36 in return if you do an audit of a design. So it hasn't been built yet, but you're looking at the design and you're suggesting changes to make it safer. If the road exists, all right, it's been built, and you go out and do it, an existing road, it gives a benefit cost ratio of 6 to 1. So for every dollar invested, you get $6 in return. Now, give a quick prize for somebody who can tell me why we get so much more for design stage than existing conditions. Pop that into the chat. But either way, it is absolutely phenomenal investment. You take those every day of the week. It's huge in terms of public use of funds. Now, what are we seeing here? Yes, Cohen has hit the nail on the head there. It is a lot cheaper to change lines in CAD or lines on a design than it is to change physical infrastructure. Once the concrete's poured, it's expensive, right? Also, there is general reluctance to change physical stuff. And what you end up is usually getting lower effectiveness treatments. People put up a warning sign or do some line marking changes because, it's really expensive to do other stuff. So we get reluctance to do stuff and we get lesser treatments. And I see a lot of people put that in as well. It's just Colin was the quickest. Good stuff. Thank you, everybody. You're doing really well. Now, let me just, I could have started with this, but I wanted to do a few of those activities. What is a road safety audit? Well, that's written and defined in the Austroads guide. There's a whole page on what it is, and I'm not going to read that out to you. It's in the learning management system if you want to have a read of it in detail. It's on page 4 of the Austroads guide. But here's a really important little part of this. Okay, it's a formal examination of a future road or traffic project or an existing road or road-related area in which an independent qualified team reports on the project's crash potential or actual safety performance, respectively. So some key words there. This is a formal process, and I'm going to give you 10 steps that you have to do as part of a road safety audit. You can do it for designs, so things that don't actually exist yet, they're planning it, they've designed something, or you can do it for the existing intersection or length of road, or like a cycleway, cycle path, or anything that interacts or is a road-related area. A car park can have a road safety audit done on it. You need to be independent. You cannot audit your own design. You cannot audit the project that you're the project manager of. You need to be independent of this. Why is that? Well, you can't proofread your own letter, is another way you could think about it. You just miss stuff. Also, it's very, as I talked about, it's very hard, and you've got so many competing demands in these projects that you may consciously or subconsciously, as the designer, be, trading things off in an audit. So we don't let that happen. You have to be independent. You've got to be qualified, and that changes jurisdiction by jurisdiction, but you really have to have successfully completed a course like this, or one that's or one of the others that's accepted in jurisdictions. And then there's usually some other requirements of a team. And you're thinking about crash potential. So what could cause crashes? What could cause harm to our community if they build it the way they're saying? Okay. The safe system. The safe system is a road safety philosophy in which most jurisdictions around the world have now committed to. So certainly Australia and New Zealand is absolutely wedded to the safe system. A lot of Europe is, and North America and parts of other jurisdictions have committed to this idea of the safe system. Now, I'm not going to go into absolute depth of the philosophy of the safe system, but let me give you a few key points which you're going to sort of be factoring in a little bit in your road safety auditing. And I'm using this diagram. There's many diagrams of the safe system you could use. But in here, we talk about shared responsibility as a principle. Now, what this means is that we can no longer blame a driver for all of the driver-like human things that they do. And we just see it all the time. People doing reckless things, people falling asleep, people not concentrating, all of that happening out there. We cannot just simply wash our hands and say, hey, the driver or the rider or the walker, it's their fault and they should not have done that, right? That is not our, we can't do that anymore, right? We have to say, what could we have done within our realm of responsibility that could have lessened the chance of this or lessen the injury outcomes of a human making mistakes? Because that is a key principle, that humans will make mistakes. They will fall asleep. They will turn around and look at their kid in the back seat who's fighting with the other kid or is just thrown up. They will drop their coffee in their lap. All sorts of things are going to go wrong out there, all right? Are there things we can do in the built road environment to lessen that risk? And then we want to bring this back to the biomechanics of the human body. How much force can the human body handle before it breaks, right? So what speeds can we crash at in different crash types and have a bit of confidence that those involved will walk away or just have minor injuries and recover quite quickly? Now, we absolutely recognize that, we looking after the roads and the speeds, we are elements of this system that we can influence safety. We know that the vehicles can play a big role. We know that the road users can continue to play a role in safety. And we don't ignore that, but we recognize that there are things that we can do in the built road environment. So key principles of the safe system: we have an aspiration of no death or serious injury. We know it's not going to happen tomorrow or it's not going to happen next year, but we've got to get our mindset in that it's unacceptable for people to be killed or seriously injured going about their daily business of travel. And that there's a lot of things that we can do in the built environment that can lessen the chance of this significantly. We acknowledge people will make mistakes. Humans use this. Humans make decisions in this network. Humans operate this network, and humans fail. We have a shared responsibility, and we understand the vulnerability of the human body from a biomechanics perspective, and we design in accordance with that, which I'll talk to you a little bit about shortly. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a 5-minute break now, but I'm going to get you to do a little quiz. Now, remember, you're not being marked on this. It's going to pop up on your screen unless your firewall blocks it. But it's multiple choice. Have a guess at it. And within the 5 minutes, you're going to have a stretch. You're going to answer these questions, and then we're going to get going again in 4 minutes and 50 seconds now. So hopefully the polls popped up. Remember, you're not being marked on it. Just have a go through it, and we'll get back into it shortly. If you haven't done so already. And let's end that poll then, Loretta. And let's share the results and have a look, see if we're all on the same page. So true or false? A road safety audit is another name for check against standards. Beautiful. Everybody in agreement? That is not correct. True or false? You can audit your own design. That is false. Almost everybody had that. Now, which of the following is not considered a formal element of the safe system? So safe attitude, we'd love everybody to have a safe attitude. It's not a formal element of the safe system. Which of these is not a common principle of the safe system? So correct on elimination or eliminate mistakes on the road. So again, we would love no mistakes to happen on the road network, right? But we're realistic in the fact that these are humans that are using it, and humans are going to fail. What we talk about is minimize and manage. Minimize mistake making and manage all the ones that slip through. Manage the energy, manage how the outcomes of these are going to occur. Now, this fifth one, I didn't ask this at all. I didn't give you any information on this, but Usain Bolt, when he crossed the finish line, his world record 100-meter sprint, he was traveling about 44 kilometers per hour. Now, why on earth am I asking that in a road safety course? Well, yes, as Mick saying, is he running fast enough to be fatally injured? So if we parked a car at the end of his lane and he ran along there, 44 kilometers an hour, bang, and he hits that, is he gonna die? Well, the answer is probably not, because he's pretty strong. But pick any of us mere mortals up and throw us at a car at 44 kilometers an hour. Well, we're starting to get into territory where we're going to be pretty badly injured, if not killed. And certainly if you took like our parents or or the like, or older people, and threw them in a car at 44, yeah, they're going to die, right? And there's this interesting correlation between a human's maximum running speed and their ability to withstand physical force running into a solid object. So, like, you can test that. You can run as fast as you can at a tree, and you'll probably hit it and survive, right? That's kind of how we evolved. But of course, we're propelling ourselves way faster than this, and things are coming at us way faster than we can run. And as a result, we see thresholds of injury being exceeded. Now, I've got a bit more sort of science and evidence and data to this. And we see here a graph of vehicle hitting pedestrian. Okay, and this down the bottom here is collision speed. Over on the y-axis here, we've got fatality probability. So this is the chance that a collision at this speed, not speed limit, collision speed, right? Take speed limit out of your mind. Just the speed of impact will result in death to a community member. Like, this is a plot, there's been a massive scatter of these to come up with this curve. This is the curve, right? So you can see down here at like 10, 20, 30, yeah, most of our community is going to survive in those strikes. Up around that 60, 70, or 80 kilometers, most of our community is going to be killed in that strike. Okay, so there's the great man. He comes in up there a little bit, quite high up in his maximum running speed. But this is for all of the community. But we've got this information for other road users. Oh no, that video's sorry. We've got this information for other road users here, right? So in this crash, where we've got the bullet vehicle, and that one we will call the bullet vehicle in a crash, right? That's the target vehicle. The bullet vehicle is the one that does the damage in a crash, right? So target vehicle is the one who's going to get the injury. So the driver of this, if being struck this side, or passenger, the bullet vehicle speed is represented down here. So 30, 40, 50 kilometers an hour on bullet vehicle speed, generally survivable for the occupant of the target vehicle. And the bullet vehicle will be fine because they spread the load across a bigger area. There's up around 70, 80 kilometers. It's highly likely that it's going to result in death to the target vehicle occupant. If we look at head-on crashes, we see that sort of 60, 70 kilometers an hour generally survivable for the occupant of the target vehicle. And in a head-on crash, they're both bullet and both target vehicles, all right? And up at that sort of 100, 110, it's not likely to be survivable. Now, some of you might be saying, oh, okay, so at 100 kilometers an hour, that's a 200 kilometer per hour crash impact. I'm like, only if you were standing in the middle of it and got squashed, or like you were in a tiny little smart car traveling at 100 and a big massive truck hit and push you back at 100 kilometers an hour. The 100 kilometer per hour crash decelerates each driver, assuming same mass, hitting square on, they decelerate from 100 to 0, and that's the crash force we're thinking about. Now, there's a great Mythbusters episode on that. They just crash cars into each other and then into walls with accelerometers, and they prove that whole point. Okay, but this provides us with an interesting sort of understanding that line that we've added in is a point where things go really bad after it. So it exponentially kicks up, and small increases over that particular line have really big impacts on the survivability of these crashes for our community. And they become really important numbers within our safe system. So 30 kilometers an hour for pedestrian strikes, 50 kilometers per hour for this side impact right angle crash, and around the 70 kilometers per hour for that head-on crash. Now, they're what we refer to generally as safe system threshold speeds for those crash types. So you'll be factoring this into your audit a little bit because you're going to be predicting a crash. You're going to say, well, I'm worried that somebody is going to step out here from that bar and get struck by a vehicle. What speed am I predicting that that's going to happen at? Is it going to happen at 10 kilometers an hour where I go, well, we don't want that to happen, but it's likely to be survivable? Or is that going to happen at 60 kilometers an hour where we say, actually, you know what? When that happens, it's not going to be survivable for the pedestrian. And here's a few more sort of impact threshold speeds for different crash types, which we've put in there, including cyclists and motorcyclists and some crashes with poles. And you'll be referring back to these. Okay, so let's get back in and start talking about this process of road safety auditing. We used to just say, okay, what's the issue? How bad is it in terms of what risk are we going to give it, risk rating, and make some recommendations on things that could be done to lessen that. Under the new model, we say we still find our issues and we still give them a risk rating, but we consider those safe system tolerances that I've just taken you through, the forces, and we make recommendations, and then we just give an indication of how well that recommendation is going to go in safe system alignment, or really addressing the issue. Or, are we just, giving a little bit of improvement, or are we getting substantial improvement in the safety? And I think the easiest way for me to do this is to just take you through an example of an audit finding, so you see how this plays out. So here is a design for a new intersection. Okay, this intersection does not exist. There's a road there. It's a high-speed road, or 80-kilometer-hour road, I think. And they're planning this new intersection. And you can see they've got a left turn lane there, got a right turn lane here. And of course, we drive on the left here. So we've got vehicles that'll go through there. And the thing that I'm identifying as a road safety auditor here is that a vehicle, let me show you. When I'm looking at the design here, I'm worried that when it's built, it's going to look something like this. And you can see here that this driver's coming up to the hold line. They're looking down there for their opportunity to go. And there's a truck there that's just entering the left turn lane. And just on that truck's shoulder, you can see there is a white car. So let's go forward a little bit in time. And you can see that truck is now well into the turn lane, and that white vehicle has emerged from sitting just on the shoulder of the truck. And this vehicle is up there. And as soon as that white car goes, they have got their opportunity to turn. But let's go a little bit forward in time. And you can see there the whole time, this other silver car had been masked by the left turning truck. And that's what we would refer to as a dynamic visual obstruction. Dynamic visual obstruction, meaning, it's a sightline impediment that's not always there, it's moving. Okay? And we know then that when they build this new one, that we're going to have that issue. They're going to build that issue into a new intersection. So there will be a point where a vehicle will be turning left in that newly constructed left turn lane, and it's going to block the sight lines to another vehicle there. Does this meet standards and guidelines? Absolutely. This is very stock standard, unless you're in Queensland now, because Queensland's just said you can't do it in this arrangement anymore, but everybody else seems to be pretty okay to build this, even though we know we're creating an issue there. So what we have to do as auditors is articulate that in some words and hopefully a little diagram like this, because the diagram tells the story. You don't even need to read those words. It's told you nicely what the issue is. So I love a good diagram, a snip of the design, a photo, something in there so somebody can go, yep, I can see what you're talking about. But the words in here we can use, and I've broken the words down into particular elements. It's like a recipe or a formula that you can use to write a good audit finding. So the way that goes is you describe the issue. So for this intersection, vehicles using the left lane may create a dynamic visual obstruction for motorists at the hold line looking for through vehicles. So we've explained our concern. Then we actually say the crash. No matter how obvious it might be to you, say what the crash is. This increases the likelihood of right through side impact crashes involving vehicles turning out of the side road. Then we say anything that could increase or decrease the risk of this. So the volume of vehicles on both roads is low, which reduces the likelihood of the crash. However, the proportion of larger vehicles turning left into Epsom Barnwell Road is high, which increases the chance of dynamic visual obstruction occurring. Then you can put a reference to any standards and guidelines if there are any applicable, and you are welcome to put nothing in here, right? You don't need to put this purple part in. But this one, this audit team said the design is consistent with current Austroads and VicRoads design guidance. The auditors believe it still presents a safety issue. So there you go. The audit team's actually putting it front and center and saying, hey, we know you've met standards and guidelines. Doesn't mean it's safe. So that's an audit finding, right? But we do a little bit more here. We actually then give a risk rating to this. Prize for the first person who can give me a formula for risk. And I'm talking the international definition of risk, financial risk, environmental risk, road safety risk. There is a formula we use for risk. Anybody got it? Anybody want to have a crack at that? Yeah, probability times consequence, likelihood times severity. They're both correct. I'll let Loretta have the fun task of trying to work out who gets prizes because lots of people are in there. And it is likelihood times severity or frequency times consequence, or it's basically saying, what is the chance a bad thing is going to happen? And when it does, what's the magnitude of badness? How bad is it actually, going to be? So what's the chance of, what's the risk of recession? Well, the risk of recession is based on the chance we go into a recession and how deep a recession we go into. That's a risk of recession. Actually, I think anyway, but that's the general idea. For road crashes, we're talking about what's the chance of a crash, and then when the crash does happen, how severe is it going to be? And so we need to make a bit of a judgment on this in a road safety audit. And to do this, we use this risk matrix, and it's a fairly standard risk matrix, a 5x5, based on the likelihood of a crash. Everything from almost certain, so, once a quarter, we think this crash is going to happen, to rare, it's going to be once every 7 years or 10 years or so. And then when it does happen, we're thinking about, well, is this going to be sort of minor first aid or insignificance, property damage only? Or are we talking about people being killed and that's death within 30 days of the crash, right? And then you take that and you say, well, okay, we think this is going to be unlikely, but when it does occur, it's going to be serious. People are going to be admitted to hospital. We take that as a high, and then we annotate it also with FSI, which stands for fatal and serious injury. That's simply saying that like for like, we are more worried about that high risk than we are that high risk. Because this one, people are going to walk away or just get minor injury or the like and recover to lead a normal, healthy life. This one, they may be holding debilitating injuries for the rest of their life or the like. So that's the only reason for that sort of line and the FSI annotation that's been put in here. So then in our audit finding, we say, right, we've identified the issue, we've nicely articulated it. Now we're going into what's the level of risk. And we say, maybe for this one, it's rare that crash is gonna happen. Everything's got to line up there. Somebody's got to be turning, and then this driver has to make a bad call, and there has to be another one here, and all of that. But when it does happen, the speed and the angle and everything, it's going to be serious. So that's going to result in a medium risk, but it's FSI, meaning that, okay, it's rare that it's going to happen, but it's serious. So we think of it as a medium risk FSI. And I always like to color that cell in accordance with this. So, yellow for medium, red for extreme, and the like. And then we need to say, okay, we've given you an issue, we've risk rated it. Now we're going to give you a little bit of help on how you might be able to lessen that risk. And as I talked to you before, we know some things are really effective, and we know other things are less effective, but still can help. And I want you to think about these as either primary treatments or supporting treatments. Now, primary treatments, think of this as like a bucket. Okay, I'm going to put a handle on it, like a bag. All right, here's a bag of treatments. It's got roundabouts in there. It's got barrier systems. It's got raised crossings. It's got signs. It's got lines, right? You can pull things out of either of these buckets. Okay, but the primary ones are road planning, design, and management considerations that virtually eliminate the potential of fatal and serious injury occurring associated with foreseeable crash types. Supporting are things that we know are good, so road planning, design, and management considerations, that improve the overall level of safety, but are not expected to virtually eliminate. And what you see in this bucket is signs, lines, lighting, pavement, fixing pavement defects, improving skid resistance, all of these sorts of things that we know are good things to do, right? But they're still very heavily reliant on the human being alert and compliant and really, not making mistakes, right? The primary considerations are more things like continuous barrier systems, because we know that if people make mistakes, they hit that, they manage the energy. It virtually eliminates death and serious injury from runoff road crashes into trees, into power poles, and the like. Okay, with modern barrier systems for passenger vehicles, they virtually eliminate death and serious injury. Okay, things like roundabouts, raised crossing points. These are things that are just so really big in terms of their reduction in death and serious injury. We categorize them as primary. Now, because this is a little bit confusing, I'm pointing you at another document. It's the Safe System Assessment Framework. This is not what we're covering in terms of this, but in there are examples of things that are primary treatments and things that are supporting treatments. And I'll come back and show you that at a later stage when we're getting you ready to go and do a practice road safety audit. But you see there, then we make some recommendations, and they are just recommendations. We have no legislative power as road safety auditors. We cannot force anybody to do anything, right? But we can give them some advice and try and help them. So we say, implement measures to reduce the speed and or angle of impact at this location. This could be achieved with a roundabout, primary. If this cannot be achieved, implement measures to improve the sight lines at this location, such as increasing the offset of the left turn lane, supporting, or relocating the hold line forward, provided that can be done so safely, also supporting. So you can see there, it's not necessary that we only provide one definitive, you must build a roundabout, because that's insane. This project team will be constrained by budget, by other things. We can't tell them that they have to build a roundabout. That we would love them to build a roundabout this location that would really address the issue here. And there'd be a lot of wonderful safety benefits. But we're realistic. We go, okay, if you can't do that, here's some other ideas that are not as effective, but that might be all you can do. I was part of an audit team recently. Same issue came up, building a left-hand lane, same as before. And this one, we actually suggested that they utilize a bike lane through there to offset and to open up sight lines, because it also connected with a deficiency in connectivity for bikes going through. So it was a nice little tweak. You don't, in a road safety audit, have to mock it up like this. In fact, that's going above and beyond, but you can provide them ideas. And a little tip here is, to be categorized as a primary treatment, it's either got to address the consequence of the crash, or it's got to virtually eliminate the possibility, which is very hard to do in the sense that we've got to factor in human error. Now, you're going to get lots of practice on this throughout this course. So if you're a little bit confused at the moment, don't get too concerned. We're going to go through this. You're going to have some practice at it, and it'll get better. But remember, primary treatments are big, great, really wonderful safety treatments that are going to virtually eliminate that. And others we refer to as supporting. And the last thing you do when you're writing up an audit finding is you leave this bit blank, which is to say that, hey, I'm giving you this report. Do something with it. All right? Write your comments, accept it, don't accept it. It's always left blank until it's handed over to whoever's receiving the report, and it's an area for them to make their comments on. So we're doing pretty well here, and I need to make sure I leave time for Loretta to give you a little assignment. It's nothing to be concerned about. It's just something to get you going. So I'm going to just jump through this really quickly here, but this is another audit finding, just another example that you can have a look at. You can see immediately from the snip of the design what we're interested in. And that just shows you how wonderful it is to put that snip in. We can immediately see a 2.9 meter right turn lane. We're going to be tight. This is going to cause some challenges, right? And then it goes through and it follows the formula there. I won't read it all out to you at this stage, but it's going to follow that formula of working through what is the issue, the crash, the risk factors, and then any standards and guidelines. And you can see here that this one actually says it doesn't conform to standards and guidelines because it should be a minimum of 3.3 meters. And then you're thinking about the severity of the incident, going back to these sorts of diagrams, and you get your information there. So I'm going to jump through that. Oh, there it's been blown up, and a sneaky Wally got in there. While you're tracking that down, give a prize for the person who can tell me what JAMA or JUMA stands for. There's another prize for you. Anybody got that? Yes. Callan in there. Joint use mast arm. That's basically where you put your traffic signals and your lighting on the one mast arm. So poor examples of wording of that finding would be right turn bay is too narrow. Okay, which right turn bay? I don't know what you're talking about. Why is that even an issue? So many questions to be asked. Better would be this one, right turn bay from main to side road. At least we know where we're talking about now. Increases the potential for side swipe rear end. Okay, we've got a crash type, and Austrode says it should be 3.3. Okay, that's okay. That's sort of done the job. But this is now where we're at, which we looked at before, and you can see there it's broken down by that recipe, that formula. Okay, it's got a snip. It's pointed us at that. This is a much more comprehensive audit finding, and I give this excellent. And if you're able to produce this sort of stuff in the audits that you're doing, or the audit you're doing as your assignment near the end of this course, you'll be getting high marks. Issue, crash, risk factors, standards and guidelines, if they're applicable. So road safety audit, here's a few things that road safety audits are not, which people sometimes confuse things with. So they're not that compliance check against technical standards. they're not an assessment of the overall merits of a road project either. That's not our place. And I'll tell you now, I've audited some projects that I think are just a waste of public money. But it's not my role to say that. A role is just to tell them how people may be killed or seriously injured if they build it the way they're planning. It's not a means to justify one project option against another. You're not doing that rating for them. It's not a substitute for a quality assurance or quality management check. It's not a crash investigation, and it's not your cyclic, visual maintenance inspection. Okay, these are all different things. We don't want to see it only applied to super high cost projects. You can do road safety audits on smaller projects and they provide wonderful value. Not really an opportunity for us to redesign projects to just make it more what we would prefer if we can't link that to safety. Not workplace health and safety check. So we do, and we can do road safety audits of construction sites, but it's not our role to check that they're all wearing their high-vis vest and steel cap boots and the like. Ours is more the check against what are the things in this construction site that could present death and serious injury to the travelling public or to the workers if the travelling public, collide through barrier systems or the like. That one, if you did notice people not wearing their high-vis vests and the like, you'd probably point it out, but it's not, the core of the road safety audit. And then it's not like a check of the traffic management plan for conformance with the codes and those sort of things. But I'll talk about this a little bit later in that section. As I mentioned before, road safety auditors are problem finders. That is our job. And I kind of feel like there's a lot of engineers and technical people who do auditing. Engineers are like problem solvers. And so you kind of got to extract that finding of the problem out from the solving it and do those in multiple parts. Now, a question that came in before was around safe system assessments versus road safety audits, and there are lots and lots of different techniques to look at safety in a project, and they have overlapping parts, and I've put a few of them in there. But safe system assessments are, there's overlap between a safe system assessment and a road safety audit. That's a different technique. It's got other advantages and other things outside of it. We do a course on that one. We are concentrating on the road safety audit, but I did want to show you some of this overlap between design reviews, which, that's where you hand your design over to the person who sits next to you and they redo your calculations and check things and the like. Well, there's a bit of that goes on in an audit as well. And then there's other things, safety and design, which is more thinking about the workplace health and safety. Can they build it safely? Can they manage it and maintain it safely? Can they decommission it safely? And DDA, which is termed different things in different jurisdictions, but that's Disability Discrimination Act, or can everybody of different abilities use this facility? Is it wheelchair accessible? Can people with vision impairment use this facility? So there's overlap. Just wanted to show that. But what can we audit? Well, you can audit pretty much anything that interacts with the road environment, big project, small, urban, rural, pedestrian, roadworks, innovative stuff, and then even the cycleways, car parks, that can all be subject to a road safety audit. Now, I want to give this example. Here's an intersection. We've got this road has priority, more major road, high speed. And you can see this road doesn't have priority. They approach this. This is an unsealed road. They've got a project where they're planning to seal the road. Simply formalize that road, seal it, do a bit of curb work here, you can see, and do some refresh the line marking. So they're improving it. They're following all the standards and guidelines for sealing a road, and its improvements are going to be made. So this council doing that sealing work and that formalisation elected not to undertake a road safety audit because they were just improving things and following all the design standards. following that work, there was a significant increase in crashes. We saw quite a few members of our community killed and seriously injured as a result of these so-called improvements. So we can see that somebody's already tried to solve, but I'm going to ask what the problem is, okay? Why did we see that increase in death and serious injury? And I saw somebody's jumped straight to solutions, but now I want you to go back as an auditor and, tell us what the issue is. Great. Okay. So we've got it coming in. See-through effect, continuity factor, the see-through. It's so many people doing it. This is great. Loretta, hard task for you. Give a prize out or a couple of prizes. Anybody who said see-through effect, continuity, anything like that. Because what's happened there, is when we were back at this, vehicles approaching here could see this big change and they knew that something was coming up. When this was sealed, they approached from here and it just looked like the road went straight through because it continued on the same color, straight alignment. So that's from the new side. Don't worry about the burnout marks. But that's from the old side. You can see it sort of continues straight. We've got a run of power poles, we've got a run of trees. Everything's just making people think that the road continues through. Okay, there's a couple of stop signs there to try to, flag that, but people will miss that. So there's an example of even when you think you're doing things just to improve the situation, if you're fundamentally changing parts of the road network, it needs to be subject to somebody looking at it or a team looking at it from an absolute safety perspective. And that's exactly what you did. It was wonderful to see how many people identified that, right? If you could have got in there as a team before they did that work, we could have come up with ways that they could have lessened this risk, and we hopefully wouldn't have seen all those people killed and seriously injured at this location after they built it. And there are lots of things. We saw somebody there said stagger the intersection. Okay, that's one option, right? A staggered T is a good one. Yeah, you just realign it a little bit out that way, and then you're looking at hazard board there, that you're not going to have a see-through, and then you make that turn to go. Make sure you stagger it that way. Don't stagger it that way. That's bad because people sort of prop out in the road. It's a mess. But anyway, that's one option. I mean, other options, there's lots of them. So we could go like a roundabout would solve all of that. We could even pop a splitter island in there. That's a wonderful treatment that helps significantly in reducing overshoot crashes. We could do advanced warning. We could do active advanced warning. We could do rumble strips on the approach. There's heaps of ways we can do things that lessen that risk. Really ensuring we articulate that issue is the first and foremost important part of a road safety audit. Looks like some people might know where that might be. Okay, so there are lots of different types of road safety audits, okay? They all follow the same process, and it's all just based on what point in a project are we at, okay? Is this pre-construction? Like they've come up with a design or they're thinking about it, they're doing their planning work. You can do a road safety audit feasibility, preliminary, or detailed. Then they start building it. Okay, you can get out there and look at the construction site and the traffic management. Or they're just about to cut the ribbon on it, and you can go and have a look and identify things. Or it's been built. Okay, it's just open to traffic. You can get out and have a look at it. Or you can have a look at the existing road network. And so feasibility audits are like, I call them the planning audits, basically. Like, we're at early stage, we're doing, here's a new alignment of a road, or, there's big changes happening in there in that early stages. And you're thinking about big picture things like, I don't know, how are the people from up here now going to get down to the shopping center? Or, are we going to increase the speed vehicles come into a curve here? Or is this the appropriate intersection control? You know, how are cyclists going to move through it? Big picture sort of things to think about. You might get a bit more information, but you'd be thinking about, okay, well, how are vehicles now going to do their, get from this side to this side? Where are they going to do U-turns? Are we going to change travel patterns and the like? Then you get a bit more meat on the design, and you're starting to get, it could be on a survey base, it could be on an aerial image, and you're starting to get some ideas and you're looking at different things that could happen. Then you get into the detailed design audits, right? And this is where you get the full works. You're going to get the long sections, the cross sections, you're going to get the pavement plans, the signs and line plans, signal phasing, and you've got to pour through all of this documentation to identify, okay, what are they going to build? And then what are the crashes that could happen as a result of them building this? And that's like, there's a lot of work and thinking to be done. And certainly if you're undertaking road safety audits at this stage, you've either got to be somebody who can look at this and know sort of what's going on, really understand it, or you've got to make sure that you've got that person in the team that can explain to you, okay, well, this is what this means. And then you can ask logical questions associated with that. I'll jump through that. Construction sites, as I mentioned, like, we can audit this, but it is far more than just a check that the signs have been put in the right location and that the taper of the bollards is long enough, right? Yes, that's part of it, but it's bigger than that. We need to think about things like, okay, if there's a KFC on this corner, right, and we're blocking off access to that KFC, well, people want their chicken and they will get their chicken, right? They are going to cross the rail lines, or they're going to just go through there one way or another to do that. Like, have we provided the facilities there? Are we, maybe we're doing something, are we going to divert vehicles through other areas, past a school or these unsafe areas? So you're thinking wider about safety than just absolute compliance with a code or a specification. You would look at that also, though. So I tend to say for these, it's big picture stuff big projects, have big construction sites that usually get the road safety audit. The surveillance officers and others should be just checking, are the signs put out right? You don't need a full-blown road safety audit for that. Pre-opening is just before the ribbon's cut, and you're often checking height of installation of barriers. Did they put the RRPMs in the right place? That they're the cat's eyes. Is the line marking right? Have they put the guideposts the right way around? They're not showing red in the wrong spot, those sorts of things. Post-opening is when it's sort of live to traffic, and you're out there and you have a look at it, often because projects are built in a brownfields environment. We never get that pre-opening. It's not like it's closed to traffic. It's sort of live to traffic the whole time. Can anybody see the issue there? If you were doing a post-opening audit, you come out there, they've just done some changes. Maddie is prize winning there. So yeah, they've got their stencil down. Whoever line marked that, they put their stencil down the wrong way, and we've created a forced conflict. So somebody could turn right from the left lane and somebody could go straight from the other lane. So they're the kind of things you'd pick up, hopefully. Hopefully that would never happen, but unfortunately it does. And I've got lots of photos of this kind of stuff. And existing conditions are where you've got existing road environment and you go and you look and you make your calls on what could cause crashes. Sometimes there have been crashes and you might have a look at those as well, but you're thinking about anything that could happen out there. And finally, we've got what we call a thematic audit. And this is where we take a certain road user and we really hone in on that particular road user, and we take that road user through the site. So if it's a cycling specific audit, we will ride the route and we'll have multiple people on bikes going through it. A walking audit, you will walk the route, and most of the time you walk the route anyway, because but you'll also potentially have somebody in a wheelchair go through the route, and a motorcycle audit, you'll have somebody on a motorcycle go through the route. We think about these road users in all road safety audits, but you give it that extra attention in these thematic audits. So questions come in. What's the timing threshold for post-opening versus existing road audits? Well, I can't give you a definitive 3 weeks after or 4 weeks after. It's in the general time frame after upgrades have been done. Existing ones, usually they haven't been touched for years, but I couldn't give you the specific timing of that. Okay, so shortly, Loretta's going to give you an assignment, and I'll explain the assignment, and then we'll randomly assign you topics, and then Loretta will show you the learning management system. But this is an easy one just to get you in the swing of doing an assignment using the learning management system. You're going to be given a random topic. Okay, these are things that are of interest to us as road safety auditors, and it's trying to cover off because there's so much we could talk about. We're going to randomly assign these topics, and you're going to do a little bit of research on it. By that I mean you can just do a bit of Googling and the like. And then what we want you to do is create a little anything, a little video, a little fact sheet, a little PowerPoint, a little cartoon, a little interpretive dance, whatever method you want to convey a little bit of information about this specific topic and its relevance to road safety auditing. All right, so we're very open as to how you do it, how you present this back. You can do a PowerPoint, you could do a little cartoon, you could just write a few paragraphs, but we do give some prizes out. Okay, prizes will be given the most creative way of presenting the information. We'll give a prize for the most technically sound and a prize for the most engaging, right? Now, we're fairly lenient on the marking of this. So as long as you've had a good effort on it, like you've done something, you've put it together, you're likely to get that above that pass mark. And the kind of topics, and these will be assigned to you shortly, you can see there. So I could pick one out randomly. Okay, Y intersection. So you try and work out, well, what is a Y intersection? What are they talking about? And then, what are the safety issues with Y intersections? And Y intersections have a particular see-through effect problem that can cause people to leave their lane, go into another direction. So all of these eventually will, once people have put their assignments in, they'll go on to the learning management system. So you will then be able to have a look at somebody's assignment on Y intersections and go, oh, okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Good, I'll keep an eye out for Y intersections in my road safety audits, or gawk screens, or super elevation, or all of these wonderful things. Short stacking, that's one I had some particular involvement in a road safety audit. Anyway, probably enough out of me. And over to Loretta, but do pop your questions into the chat. I rushed a little bit at the end, but I need Loretta to have time to give you an assignment, show you the learning management system, and a short little quiz that you're going to do as well as your assignment. Over to you, Loretta.
Thank you. I'll just share my screen. So what I'll do first is allocate everyone the assignment topic, just so that you can see that it's very random. So I've just popped in everyone's name. Hopefully you can see my screen there.
Yes, I can see it. And you're going to do some random generation, are you?
I am.
We will email this. We will email this to your topic. So you don't need to see it now.
Yeah, so you don't need to write it down. I'm going to do two things after I generate your topic. I will email it to everyone, and I will also upload it in the LMS, which I'll run through after this. So I'll just quickly generate the topic so that you can see they're moving. And you can tell me when to stop.
Stop.
All right. So these are the topics for everyone. I'm just going to take a copy of this and make sure we don't lose it.
There's some great topics in there. Danish offset crossings. That's a beautiful one. If you have any trouble, like you can't find information on something, just email me. I'll point you at a ton of literature on them.
All right, so I'll send through those topics that have been randomly selected. I just wanted to run through the LMS quickly before we finish up. So I did see that most of you have already logged in to the learning management system, so well done, thank you. It's pretty much a flow. So we're flowing through each module as each, day comes. So firstly, there's a welcome section where you can click on the link to the webinar if you can't find your meeting links, etc. There is a video for the pre-course content. There's some resources. So Ken, throughout the presentations, and Jamie will make references to certain resources. So you can click in there and find those resources. But I will jump to module 1. So this is today's module. So when you click in here, so I guess just to give you an overall, under the tasks, you need to ensure that you complete those tasks. Like we mentioned earlier in the piece, there is an 80% pass mark, or you have to pass the quiz. So just clicking through each module as we go through each day. Also the videos here in module 1. So the video that Ken showed earlier, and there is also, I think, in here a video. So there's a few different videos, but this one is an example research assignment. So the research assignment that you need to do from today, here is just a little example that you can watch if you wanted to get some inspiration.
You don't have to do a video. It can be a fact sheet, a PowerPoint, a cartoon, whatever you want.
Yeah. So once you click on research topic, so just click in here, and then as Ken mentioned on his slide, the information is here. So I will attach a list here, which will be the list of your topics. So I'll email it to you, and it'll be here as well, just in case you can't find my email. So again, just running through what you need to do for this research assignment. Once you sort of scroll down, it is due on Friday. So if you can get it done Friday, we do have markers that will be grading them because we try and get them ready for the next modules. And then just down here, I've already sort of tested mine, but down here you will see a little button that says add submission. So mine says edit, but yours will say add submission. So all you need to do once you've done your assignment, you need to click in here, and then you just need to paste it in here. So you can do drag and drop. I may have done something earlier, which I can sort of show you. So this is mine. I'm just going to drag it in here. So that's uploaded, and I save changes. So that basically means that my assignment has been done and it's ready for the markers to grade that assignment. So I know it's in there. So that's basically it. Did you want to add anything there, Ken?
No, let's quickly show them the quiz because we only got 2 minutes.
2 minutes. All right, so just the quiz here. So clicking on module 1 quiz, and you just click on attempt quiz now, and then you just run through all the quiz questions.
Yep, and there you can see them. They're multi-choice. First one's just one administrative question, but then multi-choice, kind of like the little one we gave you during the live thing. So you might refer back to the notes so you get a PDF of those if you need. Remember, if you don't get more than 80%, you'll be able to get another go at it. And of course, if you have a go at it and do really badly and feel overwhelmed, just email us. We'll set up a one-on-one meeting. We'll have some conversations about those different topics. But make sure you get in the learning management system. Your number of Wallies will be at the end. You'll get emailed out that topic. Don't get stressed out by that. Don't cancel your week's plans in order to do that assignment, because it should only take 15 minutes, 20 minutes at most to really put something together if you just want to get your decent pass mark plus. But if you really wanted to go for a prize, you can put a little more effort in if you want. But reach out if you need any help with that, if you need me to point you at any information about that. If you need some clarification on the terminology of the assignment, because occasionally some jurisdictions might call it something else, just email through to training@Safe System Solutions or to myself, and we'll clarify exactly what's meant by that topic. Log in a little bit early before next session. I'll give you some trivia questions, win some prizes before we even begin. Otherwise, thank you. Awesome group. Lots of interaction. I like it.
Very good. Very good. And lots of prizes, keeping us busy in the training team. So that's good.
Yeah, I'll have a phone call after this saying, how many prizes did we give out? I love it. Good.
Thanks everyone.
You're a great group.
See you Thursday. Bye.
Bye.